Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the noon news from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Aja Goare. Our top story this half hour: Republicans are making a last-ditch effort to repeal and replace Obamacare before an upcoming deadline makes it harder to push through. CBS's Mola Langi has more on this latest draft.
Republicans are cautiously optimistic that they may finally be able to pass a bill to repeal and replace Obamacare.
I've never felt better about where we're at.
Republican Senators Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy co-wrote the plan. It would eliminate the subsidies that make health insurance cheaper for people under the Affordable Care Act, and it would give states a lump sum of money to create their own health care systems.
I believe that most Republicans like the idea of state-controlled health care versus Washington, D.C. controlled health care.
But the Graham-Cassidy bill still has provisions which some Republicans object to. Conservatives don't like that it would keep some of Obamacare's taxes, while some moderates are opposed to the idea that people with pre-existing conditions could end up paying more for health care. And it would end federal funding for Obamacare's subsidies and expansion of Medicare.
It would result in Maine receiving $1 billion less in federal funding for health care over the next decade.
Right now, Republicans need only 50 votes to pass the plan instead of the normal 60-vote threshold in the Senate. But that legislative tool that allows that lower vote is about to expire.
If we were going to go forward, we would have to act before September 30th.
The White House says it's all in to get the bill passed. Vice President Mike Pence was on Capitol Hill Wednesday, and President Trump tweeted this morning, "I hope Republican senators will vote for Graham-Cassidy and fulfill their promise to repeal and replace Obamacare." Mola Langi, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Republicans can only afford to lose 2 votes. So far, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul says he cannot support the bill. Several others remain undecided. A new report from the Montana Department of Justice shows meth and heroin use up dramatically in Montana over the past 5 years. The report, released Tuesday, took a year to compile and details the scope of substance abuse in the state. The drug offense rate in Montana has increased 559% since 1980. Methamphetamine violations top the list, up as much as 500% in the last 5 years. Crimes involving heroin increased by more than 1,500% over that same time period. Montana Attorney General Tim Fox says he hopes this report will lay the groundwork for new legislation and policies for dealing with substance abuse crimes. The American Civil Liberties Union of Montana celebrating a minor victory after the Montana Supreme Court orders revisions to a proposed bathroom bill. The Montana Locker Room Privacy Act is sponsored by the Montana Family Foundation. The act would require government buildings or public schools to create so-called protected bathrooms designated for a single sex. The ACLU says the initiative discriminates against transgender people. The High Court ordered Tuesday 5 revisions. The first key change is to clearly define the term sex. The ruling says the initiative fails to identify whether sex means a person's anatomical sex or the sex the person identifies as. The initiative must also address the number of so-called protected facilities, the future costs, and further explain the component that allows people to file lawsuits if the measure is not filed. These revisions must all fit within the 135-word constraint for ballot measures. The Missoula City Council insists $25 million in clerical errors within its budget are an easy fix. The council adopted a resolution to pass its annual budget in July, but 3 errors have been discovered. The resolution does not include certain changes made to the budget, interest on expense debt for the Mountain Water buyout, and a projected end-of-year fund balance of $18 million. The city's chief administrative officer says this does not impact the actual budget and can be corrected. The council will amend its resolution and the budget passed will remain unchanged. The council will discuss amending the budget resolution today during the budget committee. A revised resolution would be adopted at the next council meeting. On to Crime Watch, a man is in custody for an alleged assault on a lame deer man that left the victim hospitalized. The FBI said today a 30-year-old man was found unresponsive in a home in Lame Deer Sunday morning. The victim was transported to a Billings hospital. The name and age of the suspect was not released, but the FBI says the male suspect was taken into custody by the BIA Northern Cheyenne Police. No further details were released. The 2 drivers killed in a head-on crash involving a school bus and a pickup truck near Glasgow have been identified. The Valley County Sheriff identified the victims as Julie Steiger of Troy and 73-year-old Jim Belcher of Fort Peck. The crash happened Tuesday morning on Highway 2, about 15 miles west of Glasgow. Montana Highway Patrol says Steiger was driving eastbound in a pickup truck that crossed the center line and struck a school bus head-on. The speed limit on that two-lane highway is 70 miles per hour, but it's unknown how fast the two vehicles were traveling at the time. One adult chaperone and 4 students on the bus were sent to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Now, one of the students was flown by a help flight to a Billings hospital for treatment. The Highway Patrol believes Steiger was driving from northwest Montana yesterday morning and may have been fatigued. The frantic search for survivors is ongoing today in southeast Mexico, where a 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck on Tuesday. So far, the death toll has passed 225, including a dozen school children, and it's expected to rise significantly. Buildings all over Mexico City are in ruins. An 8.1 earthquake killed at least 90 people in southern Mexico just 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, Hurricane Maria made landfall this morning in Puerto Rico as a Category 4 hurricane with winds around 150 miles per hour. That hurricane is being blamed for 7 deaths on the Caribbean island of Dominica and 2 on the island of Guadalupe. A spokesperson for the Puerto Rican government called the storm's destruction total devastation and said Puerto Rico's infrastructure will not be the same. The island is expecting 12 to 18 inches of rain. More than 7,000 people are in shelters. On that note, we turn now to our weather scene, where we're thankful we don't have that kind of weather going on here. But how are we looking for the rest of the day?
Well, the good news for us, Asia, across Montana, northern Wyoming, is incoming snow and showers. And normally we wouldn't celebrate that too much this late in summer before fall even begins, but we've had a lot of fires. So we'll take it. Thank you very much. Right now, we've got temperatures in the 30s and 40s out west, 39 at Butte right now, but 51 at Dillon. You can see those showers moving in. As far as precipitation yesterday is concerned, the big winner was Livingston with about 4/10 of an inch of precipitation. I think more of that's going to be racked up across the state today, as you can see on our forecast precipitation table. By tomorrow morning, much of western and southwestern Montana will be picking up a lot of that rain. What's the rest of the forecast picture look like for the state? I'll tell you in just a couple of minutes. Asia?
Thanks, Rob. We'll check back in. West of Helena, a new program will allow some Purple Heart recipients to hunt on Fort Harrison grounds. It's called the Purple Heart Deer Program. Each year, it will allow up to 5 Purple Heart recipients to hunt big game in Fort Harrison's training area. Aside from having earned a Purple Heart, hunters must also have a valid permit to hunt from a vehicle from Fish, Wildlife and Parks and follow all rules for hunting in District 388. Only 1 hunter will be allowed each day between November 13th and 18th. Montana National Guard leaders say the program is a way to give back to the troops. Meanwhile, Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke is using an unconventional method to encourage department employees to hunt and fish. A Big Buck Hunter Pro arcade game has been installed in the department's cafeteria. Former Montana House Representative Zinke shared these images on Twitter, calling it his, quote, latest initiative to reemphasize hunting and fishing at the department. Zinke said in a statement that the arcade game will get employees involved in sportsman's season and further the department's mission of wildlife and habitat conservation. Still to come on the noon news, President Trump says he's decided on the future of America's involvement in the Iran deal. Details when we come back. First, Rob has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching